Check, check, 1 2. 1 2 3 4 5. Sound check.
Ben Goskup and Nikki have been so kind to say that they will give us a little music while we're waiting. So let's have a big round of applause for Ben and Nikki.
I mourned the Tiananmen martyrs whose protests were brutally quelled, and I cheered when Mandela walked freely after so many years in a cell. But Mr. Assange can die in prison. Those secrets were not his to tell. So love me, love me, love me. I'm a liberal. I attend diversity trainings, and I leave feeling so reassured. I love Oprah and Magic and Foreman. It's great seeing blacks become entrepreneurs. But don't go and join a new party. That's not the way to be heard. So love me, love me, love me. I'm a liberal. I cheered when Obama was chosen. My faith in the system restored. And I'll never forgive Ralph Nader for the election he stole from Al Gore. And I love people of all races. What? And my neighborhood welcomes all races of people with high credit scores. So love me, love me, love me. I'm a liberal. Voters need more education to achieve democracy's aims. Our enemies spread memes in their news feeds, sowing division and national shame. But if you want socialized health care, you really must be insane. So love me, love me, love me. I'm a liberal. I listen to All Things Considered. I'd consider anyone's views. You know, I've read D'Angelo and Kendi, and I'm probably more woke than you. But when time came to take out Gaddafi, there was no one more red, white, and blue. So love me, love me, love me. I'm a liberal. Voters need more education. I vote for the Democratic Party. They're strengthening NATO command. I support Bono's benefit concerts and buy everything endorsed by his brand. We're gonna make poverty history. I'm on Facebook taking a stand. So love me, love me, love me. I'm a liberal. Sure, once I was young and impulsive. I wore every conceivable pin. I fought for a socialist future, which I actually thought we might win. But I've grown older and wiser, and that's why I'm turning you in. So love me, love me, love me. I'm a liberal. All right, what'd you say? All right, they're starting to move. Let's do NATO. All right. Come on up.
Yeah, this one.
So you think this is?
I don't know if those people are going to come over here, but I think we should do. Joe, are they all coming over now? Okay. We're going to hear this song again later, but we're going to do it right now and teach it to you.
Okay.
Come on up. We need one more mic.
You're on the other side, over there with her. So we're doing. Okay.
White.
Where's
Here you go.
This is for white.
Good. Okay.
Okay. So.
Oh, but we can hold it.
Okay. So you and I are here.
With the chorus.
NATO.
We're going to try to get these people to sing with us. What's that? It's the first song on the lyric sheet if you'd like to sing along with us.
Please do. We implore you.
Where are the lyric sheets?
You'll know it.
Will you help pass them out?
Pass out lyric sheets.
All right, this brother here from France is going to pass out the lyric sheets. Talk to him. You can get it on your phone. There's a QR code. It's actually song number 3.
Pass it, please.
To them, to the crowd.
Yes, thank you.
Here we go.
Merci.
Merci.
We say NATO's got to go, got to go, got to go. We say NATO's got to go so the people can live in peace. We say NATO's got to go, got to go, got to go. We say NATO's got to go so the people can live in peace. We say NATO's got to go, got to go, got to go. We say NATO's got to go so the people can live in peace. We say NATO's got to go, got to go, got to go. We say NATO's got to go so the people can live in peace. From Kosovo to Afghanistan to Libya and Ukraine, the bureaucrats of NATO bring endless war and pain. They say they want a victory, so they're sending in more arms. But nuclear Armageddon doesn't seem to raise alarm. We say NATO's got to go, got to go, got to go. We say NATO's got to go so the people can live in peace. We say NATO's got to go, it's got to go, it's got to go. We say NATO's got to go so the people can live in peace. We say NATO's got to go. Got to go. We say NATO's got to go so the people can live in peace. We're here. We say NATO's got to go. Got to go. Got to go. We say NATO's got to go so the people can live in peace. Raytheon and Lockheed make the weapons used to kill. NATO members buy them, and the people pay the bill. We can't afford good housing. We can't afford health care. We can't afford clean water, 'cause NATO left us bare. Here we go! We say NATO's got to go. Everyone sing! Got to go, got to go. We say NATO's got to go so the people can live in peace. We say NATO's got to go, got to go, got to go. We say NATO's got to go so the people can live in peace. Washington made NATO to enforce its global rule. Now it's bombing pipelines where allies once got fuel. NATO domination brings hunger, war, and fear. But there's cracks in the foundation, and NATO's end is near. Remember what happened at Jericho? The trumpets began to sound. As Joshua
commanded the people to shout.
And the walls came tumbling down. We say NATO's got to go, got to go, got to go. We say NATO's got to go so the people can live in peace. We say NATO's got to go, got to go, got to go. We say NATO's got to go so the people can live in. Sing with us! We say NATO's got to go, got to go, got to go. We say NATO's got to go so the people can live in peace. We say NATO's got to go, got to go, got to go. We say NATO's got to go so the people can live in peace.
Thank you all. We'll have back up here in just a minute. And thank you to Ben Gossip and the DC Workers Chorus. Let's give a big hand for the DC Workers Chorus. Yay! And thank you all for... What? Pardon me. The DC Black Workers Chorus. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, indeed. Well, we thank you all for coming to No to NATO, Yes to Peace, and Refuse NATO. Thank you for all the Refuse NATO folks who have just marched in. My name is Ann Wright. I'm a coordinator with David Swanson and 10 different organizations that have put on the No to NATO conference that we had yesterday, and I know the Refuse NATO has had an excellent conference yesterday afternoon too. So we are all here in great solidarity with No to NATO. A little bit? Okay, a little bit better? All right. Solidarity with No to NATO for sure. As I mentioned, we have 15 organizations that have been part of the No to NATO coalition, and I know that Resist NATO has, let's see, if you just count the banners, there must be 200 of them out there. So we thank you all, everybody from coming in from all over the country for this. I'm a retired U.S. Army colonel. Don't boo, please. I was a U.S. diplomat, and I resigned in opposition to the war in Iraq 20 years ago. And since then, I've been part of Veterans for Peace, Code Pink, Women for Peace, UNAC, you name it, and I'll be a part of it if it's for peace. We want to have a rally here. We apologize for the sun coming down. This stage was right over there in the shade until the National Park Service said we needed to move into the sun. So we apologize for that. So if you need to get into the shade to cool off, please do that. We're going to have a series of speakers, of course, and a lot of good music. So we thank you all for being here with us to challenge NATO on the 75th anniversary of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization here in Washington, D.C. The heads of state of 32 states will be arriving in Washington in just a day or so. David, say something.
We're required to tell everybody not to stand on the walkways, only on the grass.
justification for more spending, right? More militarism. So the militarism fuels climate crisis, and the climate crisis fuels more militarism in a viciously unsustainable cycle. So all of this threatens our future, right? And the world that generations yet born will have to contend with. And one very important way that this is allowed to happen that isn't talked about enough is propaganda. It is crucial to enabling these global military operations. And we're inundated with propaganda, right? Our entire society, all around us, in a myriad of ways. Many of us veterans got a not-so-healthy dose of it, right? When a friendly neighborhood military recruiter approached a misguided teenager. Yeah, we've got something for you that you can be proud of, right? And so propaganda really is at the core of these NATO operations. But here's the thing, and this is evident all around us. This weaponized propaganda is less and less effective. The so-called global south, or more accurately, the people of the global majority, they have long been victims of NATO and Western thuggery. It's no surprise that they are not buying what NATO is selling. But now, even here, in the imperial core, in the belly of the beast, especially among younger people, it just isn't landing like it used to, right? A change is coming. I really believe that. I think we see that all around us. And the fact that there is this vicious backlash happening all around us is, I think, a sign of their desperation. Desperation and trying to maintain control. So we see the vicious smears, we see the prosecutions of truth tellers, the talk of TikTok bans and all this nonsense, right? The reprisals against student movements across the country that are rising up and not buying the Zionist line. Oh, and also, by the way, military recruitment is way down. They are in crisis mode. They cannot get their numbers up to a sustainable level, no matter how hard they try, and that's just heartbreaking, isn't it? So all of this is to say, it's because of these sustained efforts and gatherings like this that is making this happen. Slowly but surely. It might be a tired cliche to say that it's always darkest before dawn. It's easy to get overwhelmed by all the doom that we're facing, but the root causes are actually pretty few. It is really boiled down to a tiny elite who impose their will on the majority. Through economic exploitation, through corporate personhood, through the threat of violence, and through propaganda keeping us distracted and off balance and dumbed down. But a change is coming. Momentum is gathering, friends, and Goliath's days are numbered, and we are here for it. So let's keep up the pressure. Thanks for being here. No to NATO. Yes to peace.
Thank you. Thank you, Joshua Shirley, National Vice President of Veterans for Peace. Now let's have somebody from the younger generation, Anastasia. Anastasia, who is a senior at Columbia University. Anastasia, where are you? Okay, come on up. Anastasia is a senior at Columbia University, International Relations. She's been with the Nuclear Peace Age Foundation and many other things in her short life. Please, Anastasia.
Thank you, Anne. Hi, my name is Anastasia, and I'm here representing the Nuclear Age Peace Foundation, an organization whose name clearly describes our vision, that of a just and peaceful world, one that is free of nuclear weapons. As a 21-year-old, with her whole life ahead of her, I wish to help build a world awash in peace, based on mutual trust, collaboration, communication, and honoring human values and all life on this planet. In 1963, JFK declared, "Let us examine our attitude towards peace itself. Too many of us think it is impossible. Too many think it's unreal. But that is a dangerous defeatist belief. It leads to the conclusion that war is inevitable, that mankind is doomed, that we are gripped by forces that we cannot control." President Kennedy's words could have been written at this very moment, with hate and mistrust having once again taken over the international relations order, a disorder based not only on might, but an obsession with brandishing nuclear weapons. Just this year, $100 billion were poured into nuclear weapons, with the vast majority of that spending coming from NATO states, mostly from the United States. By proclaiming that thermonuclear weapons assure us life and security, the core of NATO has been focused on increasing and modernizing Western nuclear stockpiles, enriching U.S. defense manufacturers, and spreading U.S. nuclear weapons around Europe through nuclear sharing programs. NATO's website actually reads that their nuclear sharing arrangements are at the heart of the alliance's deterrence and defense posture. The only way that NATO hopes to prevent war is by increasing the seriousness and the magnitude of its threats to its enemies. Investing desperately needed funds into weapons that must never be used is absurd. They can be reinvested into innovative climate technologies and into cleaning up sites of severe environmental degradation all over the planet, getting us closer to achieving global climate justice goals. We've yet to see the level of environmental action that we need, but the impact of public awareness about climate change on governments and corporations has been incredible. We must take inspiration from this. We must awaken the public to the absurdity of trying to prevent nuclear catastrophe by ensuring mutually assured destruction, to the absurdity of living on luck and praying daily that one of the more than 10,000 warheads around the world, some hundreds of times more powerful than the bombs dropped on Japan in 1945, doesn't go off by accident, triggering a nuclear exchange with no possibility of de-escalation. As an environmental activist myself, I ask all the young climate activists around the world to take up this issue with me. To learn the truth about nuclear weapons and how our leaders toy with plunging the world into nuclear apocalypse. I ask climate activists to dedicate themselves to standing for peace everywhere and spread the message that the world must commit to general and complete disarmament. To believe that when carefully designed in stages, nuclear abolition is possible and is necessary. In her book, Nuclear War, A Scenario, author Annie Jacobson describes the 72 minutes of a nuclear war that ends all of humanity. With hundreds of millions of deaths, radiation contaminating vast swaths of the planet, and nuclear winter leading to starvation of billions of people. As Annie puts it, quote, "With time, after a nuclear war, all present-day knowledge will be gone, including the knowledge that the enemy was not North Korea, Russia, America, China, Iran, or anyone else vilified as a nation or a group. It was the nuclear weapons that were the enemy of us all along." Let us understand that global peace, just like inner peace, must be actively built. It is not a byproduct of preparing for war and chaos. Peace is an existential imperative in the nuclear age. I am here asking you to bring the vision of peacemakers, mothers, fathers, and children around the world into fruition, to work towards a world based on mutual trust, collaboration, and honoring the human values that connect us all. In this world, weapons of mass destruction no longer threaten humanity's very existence. Thank you.
Way to go, Anastasia.
Thank you.
That was excellent. Excellent. Thank you. Yeah, now there's a good young peace activist saying no more to these nuclear weapons, something that we've got to keep pushing, because right now our government's on its way to, what is it, a $1.5 trillion renovation of our nuclear warheads. We got to stop all that. We've got allies, though, all over the world, and one of the allies we have right now is in Germany. We have a member of the German parliament, Seven Dagdaland, who is here. She is a part of the NATO parliamentary committee. That means she gets to sit in on NATO parliamentary meetings, and she gets to give a point of view that they don't hear very often. She is also one of the persons who has submitted testimony in the Nicaraguan lawsuit against Germany for its weapons that are going into the genocide of Gaza. So give it up for Seven.
Thank you, Anne. Thank you, dear friends. I'll bring you the solidarity greetings from the peace movement, from peace-loving people from Germany. And I thank you to having me here on this protest right in front of the White House against the NATO. We say no to NATO, yes to peace. As NATO marks its 75th anniversary on the eve of its Washington summit, three of its great myths are unraveling. First myth is that NATO is a defensive alliance, abiding by international law. In reality, dear friends, over the last quarter century, NATO has waged unprovoked, illegal wars of aggression against Yugoslavia in Europe and in Libya in Africa. And the United States, the leader of this NATO alliance, invaded and occupied Iraq in a catastrophic adventure, to name three notorious examples. Second myth, that NATO stands for democracy and the rule of law. This is just bullshit. The reality is that NATO has never, ever had a problem with counting military dictatorships or fascist regimes among its members. Portugal, one of NATO's founding members, murdered thousands of Africans in its colonial wars and tortured hundreds to death in concentration camps. That was never ever a problem for this particular collective of shared values, they say, just as Turkey, Erdogan's Turkey, with its support for jihadist groups, terrorist groups in Syria, poses no particular ethical problem for it today. The third myth is that NATO is a community, a collective of shared values, and stands for human rights. In reality, the wars conducted by the United States of America and its allies over the last 20 years alone have killed 4.5 million people, as calculated by researchers of the esteemed Brown University in the US. The torture and detention camp at Guantanamo Bay Naval Base is still in operation to this day. My friend, the journalist Julian Assange, was tormented nearly to death for 14 years because he had published evidence of US war crimes. Benjamin Netanyahu's far-right government continues to receive American and European and German support in the form of armed deliveries for its onslaught against Gaza and the Palestinian people. We want to stop them. And at its Washington summit, NATO intends to make its strategy of escalation and expansion global. Ever more weapons deliveries to Ukraine are planned. The danger of direct involvement in this war is rising on the European continent, and the NATOization of Asia is now getting underway officially. With its bilateral agreements, NATO is now seeking to expand its hegemony in Asia to pit itself against China. we, dear friends, have to stop this strategy of NATO escalation and expansion in Asia. And if you want to know what character NATO has, you only have to look at the fact that NATO unconditionally supports the far-right government of Benjamin Netanyahu in Israel, and these war crimes started against the Palestinian people in Gaza. And if you want to know what character NATO has, you only have to look at how the NATO General Secretary Stoltenberg torpedoes every initiative for peace in Brussels and also do the administration in Washington and in Berlin. And that is a shame. The plan is escalation, no negotiations, no peace. And we need to stop the killing in Ukraine. Therefore, we need an immediate ceasefire. And we have to stop the killing in Gaza too. And we need a ceasefire in Gaza too. And I know, dear friends, ceasefire is not everything. But everything is nothing without a ceasefire. And I have to tell you something, because Anne mentioned this. It is such a shame that the German government has in fact such a central role in this war, ongoing war in Gaza. Germany is the second most important arms supplier for Israel after the United States. From 2019 to 2023, 30% of all arms to Israel, they came from Germany. And in 2023, after October 7th, the figures, they rise up to 47%. 37% of the arms import in Israel, they are coming from Germany. And especially because of our history, I think it's just shameful to send for this war in Gaza more German weapons. And therefore, I would love to coordinate with you guys in the United States. Stop arming Israel from the United States and from Europe. The other thing is the majority of the German population now no longer wishes to follow Berlin administration in its mindless escalation, and it likewise stands opposed to granting Ukraine again on this summit the NATO membership, and to funneling endless sums of money to the corrupt and undemocratic regime in Kiev. And it's completely irresponsible and insane to hold on to Ukraine's NATO membership at this Washington summit. A majority in Germany rejects this accession. 55% in the whole of Germany and 70% in the east of Germany reject the accession of Ukraine into the NATO. Our governments, dear friends, are doing politics against their own population. And therefore, we have to stand up against these policies of wars. We need peace instead of NATO. We need, at long last, to stand up for democratic and popular sovereignty and to reject the indignity of being a vassal state of Washington, which is just about all we have gotten from the ruling coalition in Berlin. Peace, not NATO. Thank you very much. Thank you.
So much. Well, thank you so much, Seven. It's great to hear a politician talking like that, isn't it? Yeah. We need more politicians to say no to NATO, resist NATO. And you know, in our U.S. Congress, we have a lot of people that are going in to tell our U.S. congressmen and women no more to NATO, no more genocide, no more U.S. complicity in Gaza. And one of the groups that has been coordinating going into Congress, how many of you all have been going into Congress to say no more genocide in Gaza, no more complicity? Raise your hand if you have. Well, one of the leaders of getting people into Congress for the last 8 months has been the co-founder of Code Pink Women for Peace, Medea Benjamin. Go get him, Medea.
Thank you. So let me see a show of hands. How many of you would like to see negotiations to end the war in Ukraine? Well, guess what? You would not be welcomed by NATO. In fact, how many of you know who Viktor Orban is? A not very super democratic leader of Hungary, in fact, quite authoritarian, good friend of Donald Trump. But guess what? He decided, he's the head of a rotating council of the European Union, and he decided that he was going to try to do something to get the sides together. So he went to Ukraine and talked to Zelensky. Fine, right? But then he did the unthinkable. He went to Russia to talk to Putin, and all hell broke loose. In fact, in Politico yesterday, they said leaders from the north, south, east, and west of the European continent savaged him for going to Moscow to talk to Putin. That is because NATO does not want to see an end to the war. In fact, the war gave NATO a new lease on life. The war actually pushed the NATO countries in Europe to spend 18% more on the military than they were doing before the Russian invasion. The war in NATO allowed U.S. presidents, whether it's Donald Trump or Biden, to push that more of the NATO countries spend the 2% of their GDP on the military. So now, of the 32 countries, 23 of them are now spending over 2% on the military. Now, where do you think that money comes from? It comes from us, and in Europe, it comes from what is left of a safety net there. The universal health care system that is now in tatters in many European countries. The free education through college that is now in tatters in many European countries. Because the U.S. and NATO want Europe to be like the U.S., spending more and more of the people's money on the military. And we say no. That's why we say no to NATO. I also want to ask you, what is the richest county in the United States? Anybody know? All right, what state is it in? Virginia, right. Loudoun County, Fairfax County. These are the richest counties in the entire United States. Where does that money come from? The Pentagon. That is coming from the Pentagon. And so I think we could think of NATO as a gigantic money laundering scheme to get more and more money from the people, from us and from our European brothers and sisters to go into military. In fact, the head of NATO, the Secretary General, is bragging that NATO allies in Europe are going to spend $120 billion more on U.S. weapons. And I want to end by telling you what the NATO Secretary General, Jens Stoltenberg, did recently, which is he went to a production facility of Lockheed Martin. Boo! Let's hear the boos for Lockheed Martin. Lockheed Martin, the company that's making the F-16s, the F-35s, the C-130s that are bombing people in Gaza every single day, the Hellfire missiles that are bombing people in Gaza every single day. And he went to this facility. And he said, this unelected leader went and said, what you do in this facility every day makes NATO stronger and the world safer. This unelected leader said, on behalf of the 1 billion people across NATO, allied countries in Europe and North America, thank you for everything you do. So this is the head of NATO acting as if he has the right on our behalf to thank the weapons manufacturers for providing these weapons that are killing our friends, our colleagues, our brothers and sisters in Gaza and are keeping the war in Ukraine going. And then he also said, from Arizona to Virginia, Florida to Washington State, and right here in Alabama, that's where he was, American jobs depend on American sales to Europe and Canada. What you produce keeps us safe. What the allies buy helps us keep America strong. So this is the money laundering scheme that is NATO, that we say absolutely no to. And those of you who live here in the United States, we have a couple of things coming up where you can show your opposition to the money laundering scheme that both the Democrats and the Republicans buy into. One is coming up very soon, the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee. Boo! The other one coming up after that, the Democratic National Convention in Chicago. Boo! They don't even know who their presidential candidate will be. And one thing right here in Washington, D.C., that we have to come out to in full force is Benjamin Netanyahu's visit to a joint session of Congress on July 24th. So raise your hand if you're going to join us to give him the unwelcome he deserves in Washington, D.C. We need you to tell your friends, to tell your colleagues, everybody come out to say no to NATO, no to Benjamin Netanyahu, and yes to peace. So I just want to end by saying no to NATO and free Palestine. Free Palestine. Free Palestine. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Medea. We appreciate the enthusiasm in going after all of these evil people in the U.S. Congress and around the world. If you haven't seen her on the various social media, going after them one by one by one. Watch that. And also she and the next speaker, David Swanson, who is the Executive Director of World Beyond War, Work, Roots Action, and many other peace organizations. They just have a new book out on NATO, and we invite you to come to Busboys and Poets on Tuesday night, 6 to 8, and they, plus 7, who has a book out in German, and we hope we're getting English editions of it. They'll be doing a book analysis at Busboys and Poet on Tuesday, 6 to 8 p.m. Let's hear it for David Swanson.
Thank you to Ann Wright. Thank you to Medea Benjamin, who is right about everything, including that NATO is first and foremost a weapons dealing institution. It has more staff working on weapons deals and funnels more money through it for weapons than anything else it does. This is what NATO does, not prop up and support and defend democracy. NATO sells those weapons to the worst dictatorships on the planet. No secrecy about it. I think when we do these events, you know, we should acknowledge two things, not one. One, that we're on land that was sustainably inhabited by indigenous people, and two, that we're on land that is being baked, cooked, broiled, fried, and steamed by the Pentagon. By the Pentagon putting our money into environmentally disastrous war making and war preparations when we need it for useful things. That Secretary General of NATO that Medea was talking about, not too long ago, he said that the reason Russia invaded Ukraine was that NATO insisted that Ukraine was going to be in NATO and wouldn't exclude it. This was why. Russia invaded Ukraine. And nobody has accused him of loving Putin and being in the pay of the Russian government and supporting Russian war making. They've just pretended he didn't say it. Right? This is what happens if you're the Secretary General of NATO. If you're the President of the United States, who thinks he runs NATO and thinks NATO runs the world, a couple days ago he said, I'm running the world. He can't tie his own shoes, and he's running the world because of NATO. You take away NATO, you take away the cover of these dozens of other nations that provide this facade of legitimacy for U.S. crimes, and he's not running anything beyond a bedroom in the corner of that house. They're getting a new Secretary General. I want to quote this guy as well, something he said not too long ago. What can we say to make it look like Israel is not committing war crimes? There's nothing they can say to make it look like that. People have eyes and ears. They can believe. We have independent media. We have journalists risking their lives so that there is nothing they can say. But one thing they can try to say. 2 nights ago, we had an event here about no to NATO, yes to peace at Busboys and Poets restaurant, and a corporate television network came and interviewed a couple of us, and they included, surprisingly, some good seconds, but the headline was, the police in Washington, D.C. are beginning to get afraid of the anti-NATO protesters. This is the danger. You all are the danger, not NATO. Not the normalization of a buildup to a nuclear apocalypse, not the creation of military spending as a private good, not the demand from this unelected hack that governments of the world put more of their people's money into weaponry as a civic duty. That's not dangerous. The doomsday clock being closer than ever to midnight and Ukraine wanting to escalate, and the two people debating, as they call it, each other for the position of running the world spent more time debating their golf game than they did on who was going to get Europe to pay for the apocalypse. This is what NATO does to us. The danger is not you. The danger is not me. The danger is not standing up and speaking the obvious truths. The danger is this war machine that discovered in Bosnia and Kosovo and Afghanistan and Iraq and Libya and Gaza that it can do anything it wants, that it can take trillions of dollars and put it into senseless devastation and get away with it and call itself the law enforcers. This was the actual headline. Law enforcement worries about NATO protesters. There is no greater law violator on earth than NATO. They try to figure out what they can say all the time. They say usable nukes, tactical nukes, survivable nukes. There is no such thing. We have to stop believing in anything that they try to tell us. We have to stop allowing the proliferation. We have to stop allowing the war rehearsals. We have to stop allowing the buildup of more members and more partners. And we have to call them out on this nonsense of a bridge to later NATO membership for Ukraine. Because there's not going to be a bridge to survival for humanity if they keep that up. So thank you for being here in this military-created heat. No to NATO, yes to peace.
Okay. Thanks, David Swanson. Thanks for those words. No to NATO. No to NATO. Yes to peace. No to NATO. Yes to peace. No to NATO. Yes to peace. Well, next we need more music in this movement. And speaking of movements, we want to thank the Movement Infrastructure Project, who is doing all the sound for us, that built the stage. Actually rebuilt the stage because they had it over in the shade, and then we were forced to move so you all would be in the sun. Right now we have Ben Goskup and the 1DC Black Workers Center Chorus for some music to get us moving.
Welcome, friends.
Amen.
My name is Ben Grosscup. We've passed out lyric sheets throughout the crowd. I bet you got it in your bag. And we passed these lyric sheets out so that you could sing with us. And in order to sing with us, we want to invite people to come forward. If you need to stay in the shade, or get a little group together in the shade if you need to stay in the shade. But this song is called No More Sacrifice Zones, and it's the first song on your lyric sheet. The song was inspired by a book by Chris Hedges in 2012, Days of Destruction, Days of Revolt. No more sacrifice zones, because NATO, militarization of the whole planet, is turning this entire planet into a sacrifice zone. But this story, friends, starts with the colonization of this continent, places like Pine Ridge. Sing with us. The army closed you in as they drove you from the plains. They're turning your homeland to a sacrifice zone. The company took the uranium, just the fallout remains. They're turning your homeland to a sacrifice zone where your story's been forgotten. We will make it known. Sing with us. We will make it known. We will make it known. Pine Ridge, you are not alone. Pine Ridge, you are not alone. Your homeland has been desecrated. The next could be our own. No more sacrifice zones. No more sacrifice zones. Sing with us. No more sacrifice zones. No more sacrifice zones. You sound beautiful out there. I hear your voices in the crowd. The state makes voting obsolete through emergency decrees. They're turning your city to a sacrifice zone. The cops occupy your street to bring you to your knees. They're turning your city to a sacrifice zone where your story's been forgotten. Where your story's been forgotten. We will make it known. Ferguson, you are not alone. Your city has been subjugated. The next could be our own. No more sacrifice zones. No more sacrifice zones. The coal men blew the mountain, killing everything nearby. They're turning your region to a sacrifice zone. The state refuses to help your people as you watch them die. They're turning your region to a sacrifice zone where your story's been forgotten. We will make it known. Appalachia, you are not alone. Your region has been desolated. The next could be our own. No more sacrifice zones. No more sacrifice zones. The fighter jets will cut you down to push you all away. They're turning your nation to a sacrifice zone. The bombs that kill your children came from the USA. They're turning your nation to a sacrifice zone where your story's been forgotten. We will make it known. Palestine, Palestine, you are not alone. Your nation has been decimated. The next could be our own. No more sacrifice. No more sacrifice songs. Where your story's been forgotten, we will make it known. Pine Ridge, Ferguson, Appalachia, Yemen, Immokalee, Flint, Michigan, Northern Alberta, and Camden, Standing Rock, Navajo, Palestine, and Puerto Rico. And with you, you are not alone. Your lands and lives were sacrificed. The next will be our own. No more sacrifice songs. No more sacrifice songs. No more sacrifice songs. No more sacrifice songs. Thank you. Tell us about the Black Worker Center Chorus.
We're the Black Workers Center Chorus. We're an open membership, meaning the more the merrier. We rehearse on Tuesday evenings in Washington, D.C. at one of our members' houses. Please feel free to approach us. Ask any one of us in the white attire or Nikki too about a rehearsal. Even if it's not a formal one, just come sing with us anytime as individuals too.
Okay, now we're gonna sing a song. It's in Spanish. It talks about peace and freedom. We're gonna be bringing children in the border of Mexico. We're gonna bring children who's suffering in Palestine, the ones who are alive, the ones who were murdered by these government's funds. We're gonna bring words for the water, and we're gonna bring words for people in the world.
Number 2 on your lyric sheet.
esta tierra. Ya no más hambre, ya no más guerra, queremos paz en esta tierra. Paz, queremos paz y libertad en este mundo. Paz, queremos paz y libertad en este mundo. Ya no más bombas con radiación, no más ideas de exterminación. Ya no más bombas de radiación, no más ideas de exterminación. Paz, queremos paz y libertad en este mundo. Paz, queremos paz y libertad en este mundo.
For the last song of this set, we're going to do number 3 on your lyric sheet. We say NATO's got to go. Friends, we say NATO's got to go. This song uses a melody from the African American spiritual tradition, a song called Joshua at the Battle of Jericho. You may know this melody, so please sing with us.
And we're going to invite you to join back again the front stage. I know it's sunny, but people around the world are suffering under the sun too. And it will be great if we all can get together again and put all our voices together for the people who's over there in that White House to our right can listen all our voices together. So please stand up and join us for this last song. We want to hear everybody's voices.
Come forward, friends. Come forward. We say NATO's got to go. We need your voices up here. We need to hear each other. We need to hear each other. Let's do it up here at front stage. If you have a health issue, please stay safe. This is We Say NATO's Got to Go. We say NATO's got to go, got to go, got to go.
We say NATO's got to go so the people can live in peace. Everybody! We say NATO's got to go, got to go, got to go. We say NATO's got to go so the people can live in peace. We say NATO's got to go, got to go, got to go. We say NATO's got to go so the people can live in peace. Say NATO's got to go, got to go, got to go. We say NATO's got to go so the people can live in peace.
From Kosovo to Afghanistan to Libya and Ukraine, the bureaucrats of NATO bring endless war and pain. They say they want a victory, so they're sending in more arms. But nuclear Armageddon doesn't seem to raise alarm.
Say NATO's got to go, got to go, got to go. We say NATO's got to go so the people can live in peace. We say NATO's got to go, got to go, got to go. We say NATO's got to go so the people can live in peace.
Raytheon and Lockheed make the weapons used to kill. NATO members buy them, and the people pay the bill.
Can't afford good housing. We can't afford healthcare. We can't afford clean water, 'cause NATO left us bare. We say NATO's got to go, got to go, got to go. We say NATO's got to go so the people can live in peace.
Washington made NATO to enforce its global rule. Now it's bombing pipelines where allies once got fuel. NATO domination brings hunger, war, and fear. But there's cracks in the foundation, and NATO's end is near.
Happened at Jericho, the trumpets began to sound. God commanded the people to shout, and the walls came tumbling down. We say NATO's got to go, got to go, got to go. We say NATO's got to go, so the people can live in peace. We say NATO's got to go, got to go, got to go. We say NATO's got to go, so the people can live in peace.
Just voices!
We say NATO's got to go, got to go, got to go. We say NATO's got to go, so the people can live in peace.
One more time.
We say NATO's got to go, got to go, got to go. We say NATO's got to go, so the people can live in peace.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining your voices.
NATO has got to go, and we got to get going. We got lots of great speakers. We're going to go to them fast and go through them fast. And up next from UNAC, United National Anti-War Coalition, Joe Lombardo, and from Resist NATO Coalition, Cody Urban.
Hello, everybody. I will be quick because we can't stay out in the sun forever, but I appreciate everybody who did stay on this hot day. Yesterday, the Zionist entity that they call Israel bombed a UN school in Gaza, killing dozens of children and other people. This is the third UN school that was bombed in Gaza in the last week. It's not just the Zionists that are responsible for this genocide. The man who lives there, Genocide Joe, it's his bombs, it's his planes, it's his money, it's our money. He is just as responsible.
Raise the microphone a little, it's hard to hear.
This week, they're inviting the rest of their gang, NATO, to come here. We're here to bust their party. NATO does not need to be here. We don't want NATO here. In the past year, people all around the world have had a consciousness-raising experience as they saw what happened in Gaza, the genocide. Even the Western-oriented organizations have named it as a probable genocide. They could not say anything else because we saw it. We saw it in the screens that we have in our pockets. There's been many wars, many genocides. But this one we witnessed. And the people said, no, we can't stand by and have it happen. In the college campuses all across the country, people rebelled. I heard today that there were 900 people arrested in the United States from our campuses. People, young people, may be sacrificing their schooling for the sake of protesting this genocide. You can't ask for more. These people are the people that are making up the new anti-war movement, many of whom you saw marching here today. This is the movement that we need to end the Zionism, to end the genocide, and to end NATO. It's not just what's going on in Gaza that we have seen that people are protesting and that have wakened people up around the world, but also what's going on in Ukraine. It became clear to more and more people that Ukraine was a war of choice where NATO and U.S. imperialism decided they were going to destroy Russia, and they were going to fight that battle to the last Ukrainian, and hundreds of thousands of Ukrainians have died. In the streets of the cities in Ukraine, they are using press gangs to recruit more people. People 60 and below and 16 and above are being forced into vans and buses and sent to the front line. That's okay with the United States. That's okay with Joe Biden. That's okay with the forces that we are fighting against. Now, we're going to be in the streets today and the rest of the week. There will be people who will be protesting this. But far after that, we must build our coalitions, we must build our movements. And there are two other important events that are happening this summer, which I urge you to be involved in. In a couple of weeks, there'll be people at the Republican National Convention to protest. But this year, there's going to be people at the Democratic Party convention, because it's the Democrats that are in the government that's causing the wars in Ukraine and supporting the wars and the genocide in Gaza. So we have to be there. And I'll tell you, the meetings that are building up to the Democratic Party protests have been huge. One of them had 500 people at it. Many, many organizations. You might remember, or you might not, but I remember, because I'm older than most of you, in 1968, when there was a Democratic Party convention in Chicago. This one's also in Chicago. Thousands of people showed up and protested, and that changed politics. That was a part of the political landscape. But this one is going to be a mass demonstration, and this will have international implications. It's being led by Palestinian organizations who are saying no, no to genocide, no to Genocide Joe, no to the war, no to NATO, and no to what's going on in Gaza for Palestinian rights. So I encourage everybody to be there. I do believe this is going to be a demonstration that's going to change the world, that's going to rock things in a real serious way. Thank you. It's in the 19th of August in Chicago. You'll be hearing a lot more about it because we're really building up towards something big.
Thank you. Okay. Cody Urban from Resist NATO Coalition. Let's go, let's go, let's go. All right, thank you.
All right. Can y'all hear me in the back? All right, let's do a chant here. We did this one last night at our Resist NATO Summit. I'm going to say, starve the war, and y'all are going to repeat by saying, not the people. Are we ready? Starve the war! Starve the war! Starve the war! That's right. That's the kind of movement we're building. That's the kind of exposure we need to do about what they're trying to plan in this house right here as we get ready for the NATO summit in the next few days. Wanted to say thank you so much to the No to NATO, Yes to Peace Coalition for giving us a chance to speak. We were really happy to be at your summit yesterday, where we got to talk about what's really at stake at this current moment for the peace movement. We're also really happy to see some of y'all at our summit in the evening, where we continued the conversation and talked about what kind of movement can we build together. That's the kind of that's the kind of movement that we brought here to DC, and we wanted to build with all of us together. So my name is Cody Urban. I'm a member of the International League of People's Struggle, which is one of the leading conveners of the Resist NATO Coalition. Resist NATO is a coalition of anti-war organizations, peace organizations, national liberation organizations, workers organizations, migrants organizations that have all come together on the point of unity that NATO is a threat to all of our existence. So the past speakers here did a really great job laying out what actually is happening at the NATO summit these next few days. What I want to talk about is, what does this mean for us? What does this mean for the peace movement here in the U.S. moving forward? We know that the United States is losing. It's losing everything that it once held on to in the world. It's losing economic power. I mean, who here has had their rent go down in the last few years? Not me. The U.S. is losing politically. Diplomatically, it is isolated. It is isolated because the world is seeing its unending support for a genocidal regime that has been waging a war on Palestine for over 75 years. The U.S. is isolated because it has been shown time and time and time again that when there is a vote for peace in the United Nations, even when it is the only member raising its hand to veto, it is quashing it. That's what it did in Ukraine when there was countless opportunities for peace when the war started. It would phone Kiev and tell them, don't worry, we'll keep sending you arms. Keep fighting. And it has done that to the point where there are over 320,000 dead Ukrainians and Russians since then. The U.S. is losing economically. It is losing diplomatically. It has one thing left: its military might. The United States is preparing to wage all-out war to keep its failing position as the world's #1 superpower. That's what this NATO summit is about. That's why they're talking about more money to Ukraine. It's not about peace. It's about, quote unquote, winning the war. There's no peace in that kind of war. That's why they're having a forum on the Indo-Pacific. Last I checked, NATO stood for North Atlantic. It's nowhere near the Indo-Pacific. That's because NATO is not just about the North Atlantic. NATO is everywhere. NATO is not about peace. It's about counter-revolution. It's about attacking whoever it wants for this White House to still remain on top. So what does this mean for our peace movement? What was really great about our Resist NATO summit that we had last night is we talked about the movement for a just peace must connect with all of those who are waging a just struggle for their liberation. Because peace is about self-determination. Peace is about sovereignty. Peace is not just the absence of violence for a little bit of time. It is about creating a new system where we don't have to decide if we're going to pay for school or go to the doctor. Or if we have to choose between paying rent or buying food today. So the kind of movement that we're building is one that gets us all together. And we are building this every single day. Just last weekend in San Diego, California, members of the Resist NATO Coalition were also involved in the International Cancel RIMPAC Coalition. We took over 500 people to the streets of San Diego against the U.S. bases. And now we're here, hundreds in the street against the NATO summit. So this is the movement that we want to build with you. This is the movement that resists NATO, that no to NATO, yes to peace, and all the people need to unite behind. We want to thank you again. Our coalition, we have a closing program that we need to head off to very soon, so we can't stay for the full ending of this program here, but we want this to be a beginning. Because we did something here. When NATO celebrated their 75th anniversary, we did not give them a warm welcome. Let that be remembered. Let's keep fighting back until all conditions of war are gone from this world. All power to the people. Long live international solidarity.
We are very privileged to have with us here from Belgium, Ludo de Brabander, who has been organizing No to NATO events at NATO summits around Europe for years and years. He is spokesperson for the organization Vrede, which means peace. Ludo, come to the stage.
Dear friends, comrades, I'm from Belgium, and it's the host nation for both NATO's political headquarters and SHAPE, that is the military headquarters that commands all NATO operations worldwide. And unfortunately, we also are a country that hosts US nuclear bombs at a military base in Kleine Brogel. It's clear NATO is a key driving force of global militarization and armament. It has been said already many times. The eastward expansion of NATO in Europe caused enormous tensions with Russia. The decision to include Ukraine as a future member of NATO was an act of self-fulfilling prophecy, and indeed a provocative move that prompted Russia to invade Ukraine. And that's not me that says this, but it's NATO Secretary General Stoltenberg himself who said it last year in front of the European Parliament. The policy of confrontation against Russia and China, which NATO refers to as systemic rivals, is making the world more unsafe. It's fueling a dangerous arms race and increasing the risk of nuclear war. Military interventions by NATO or its member states helped destabilizing former Yugoslavia, Afghanistan, Iraq, Libya, Syria, and go on, for which the population pay a heavy economic and human toll. In short, NATO is not interested in peace. In Ukraine, it refuses to take or support diplomatic initiatives that could prevent further bloodshed. Knowing that continuing the war will not restore Ukraine's sovereignty over the territory. The same illusions NATO presented us with during the war in Afghanistan, which ended in a debacle. NATO's outrage at Russia's aggression against Ukraine stands in sharp contrast to the political and military support given by several NATO member states to the Israeli genocide policy, genocide war in Gaza. Dear friends, last month, NATO Secretary General Stoltenberg proudly announced that today 23 member states spend at least 2% of their GDP on their military apparatus. According to a recent, 2 weeks ago, report, the military spending of European states and Canada increased with 18% in 1 year time. The nuclear-armed states of NATO are responsible for 2/3 of world military investment in nuclear weapons. We have enough of NATO's militarism and war policy. We want a real security policy that meets people's basic needs, that is committed to diplomacy and disarmament, and takes into account the security interests of other states. The world doesn't need rising military spendings and more deadly weapons. What people need is more investment to fight poverty, disease and climate change. No peace without justice. Stop NATO, stop militarism. Free Palestine and all oppressed people in the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Ludo. Thank you to Ludo. Is Jackie here? I don't see her. Let's bring up Alain Roy, who is with us from France, an organizer in the Movement for Peace, Vice President of the International Peace Bureau, and may have some news from France of the moment to share as well.
Yes, I am here from France to bring you the support of French pacifists for your demonstration against NATO and for peace. But we have good news from France. The far right has not won. The left coalition has won the elections, and that's good news for peace too. In France, NATO has never been popular because this military alliance serving the policies and the interests of the United States of America does not respect the will and autonomy of its member states and of the peoples. But today, the situation is even worse than during the Cold War. Today's global NATO is a factor of insecurity and destabilization in the world. In the Ukrainian conflict, NATO is fueling the war and opposing any ceasefire or negotiation. NATO means the politics of force and confrontation. And its expansion in Asia is leading to the threat of a new war with China. The risk is to end up in a new world war that could lead to nuclear apocalypse. NATO means the never-ending militarization of international relations. NATO means permanent wars. That's why we must work together in Europe, in the USA, and all over the world to say no to NATO and yes to peace.
We can bring up now, all the way from Norway, our good friend Tore Norland, who bikes for peace around the world, and at the moment here in Washington, D.C. Tore.
Thank you very much. I'm so delighted to be here today, and I was walking with you people for a few days. It was so great to walk here in Washington, D.C. I'm sorry to say I come from Norway. Why? Jens Stoltenberg is from Norway. When I was young, he was in a no to nuclear weapon. But after a while, he come to power, and Hillary Clinton, the foreign minister of USA, called him, "Can you please help us to bomb Libya?" And so they bombed Libya, and they killed 100,000 people there back in 2011, I think, or 12. And after that, he get a job as a general secretary in NATO. Shame on him or shame on NATO what it did to Libya and to the Iraq and Afghanistan. It's terrible what we do to the human being on this earth. So yes to peace, no to NATO. And we have to continue. Back in the 1980s, we biked against nuclear weapons in Soviet Union, America. We get rid of a lot of nuclear weapons from 80,000 to 13,000. We have to do the same now, walk and ride for peace, because the politicians in this world today are blind. They have no vision. We need to get new politicians in the White House and in other parliament over the whole world. So please keep on your great work. Thank you for letting me coming here, and I will end my speech and say we need to go to Kyiv, we need to go to Moscow and talk with them and say peace on the earth is the most important for the people today in Gaza. People in Ukraine I talked to this morning, they said please work for peace, and the same for people in Russia told me, and the same for the people in Gaza. Keep on your great work, and God bless you.
Thank you, Tore. Thank you, Tore. We're going to have some more music, but we need our musicians. Where are they? If we can't have our musicians, let's have... Here comes Ben. Ben, NATO's got to go.
Thank you, David. Black Workers Center Chorus. No basta rezar. Okay, it's on your lyric sheets, friends. Take out your lyric sheets. This one is in Spanish. It's called No basta rezar. It's not enough to pray. All right, it's little guitar. Tell them about the song. Yeah, so explain. Can you explain the song? Yeah. Thanks for all sticking around in this heat. Let's orient a little bit this direction. You guys can stay in the shade, and we'll orient a little bit toward you. How's that sound as a deal?
This song has been sang for a few generations. It's very well known in Guatemala, or as we sometimes call Guatemala. And it's in Spanish, but what the lyrics translate to in English is that no, we will not stop praying, in the sense of we will not stop. It is not enough to pray.
Need a little guitar? No basta rezar. Number 4 on your lyric sheet.
Number 4.
Need some guitar. No, no, no basta rezar. Hacen falta muchas cosas para conseguir la paz. No, no, no basta rezar. Hacen falta muchas cosas para conseguir la paz.
Y rezan de buena fe, y rezan de corazón, pero también reza el piloto cuando monta en el avión para ir a bombardear a los niños del Irak.
Para ir a bombardear a los niños del Irak.
No,
no, no basta rezar. Hacen falta muchas cosas para conseguir la paz. No, no, no basta rezar. Hacen falta muchas cosas para conseguir la paz.
nada se puede lograr si no hay revolución. Reza el rico, reza el amo y te maltratan al peón. Reza el rico, reza el amo y te maltratan al peón. No,
No, no basta rezar, hacen falta muchas cosas para conseguir la paz. No, no, no basta rezar, hacen falta muchas cosas para conseguir la paz.
nada se puede lograr mientras hay explotación del hombre por el hombre y exista desigualdad. Del hombre por el hombre y exista desigualdad. No,
No, no basta rezar, hacen falta muchas cosas para conseguir la paz. No, no, no basta rezar, hacen falta muchas cosas para conseguir la paz.
en el mundo no habrá paz mientras hay explotación de la mujer por la mujer y exista desigualdad. De la mujer por la mujer y exista desigualdad.
No, no, no basta rezar, hacen falta muchas cosas para conseguir la paz. No, no, no basta rezar, hacen falta muchas cosas
conmigo, no bastaba con rezar. Ustedes dirán conmigo, no bastaba con rezar. No, no, no basta rezar. Hacen falta muchas cosas para conseguir la paz. No, no, no basta rezar. Hacen falta muchas cosas para conseguir la paz.
Una vez más.
No, no, no basta rezar. Hacen falta muchas cosas para conseguir la paz. No, no, no basta rezar.
Friends, here's a song that I wrote for the student movement to free Palestine. It's called Shut Down the System Now. The sing-along part's real easy. Let's hear it. Shut down the system now. You, shut down the system now.
Shut down the system now. Woo!
I came here for school so I could be an engineer. Shut down the system now. My professors tried to steer me. I came here for school so I could be an engineer. Shut down the system now. They want to use me as a tool, designing high-tech weapons gear. Shut down the system now. But I want to use my brains for pursuits that bring me pride. Shut down the system now. Not making fighter planes for the Gaza genocide. Shut down the system now. We're gonna shut down the system now. We're gonna shut down the system now. Raise up your fist and show you can resist them. Shut down the system. Raise up your fist and show you can resist them. Here we go. Hey, raise up your fist and show you can resist them. Shut down the system now. So I considered a career with a politics degree. Shut down the system now. And my professors tried to steer me to the U.S. Embassy. Shut down the system now. Where the policy is made so Uncle Sam can be on top. Shut down the system now. Even if when we invade over 1 million bodies drop. Shut down the system now. We're gonna shut down the system now. Come out and shut it down. Shut down the system. Shut it down for Palestine. Raise up your fist and show you can resist them. Shut down the system now. So I gave it one more try and took a full course in PR. Shut down the system now. Where I learned a reason why life in school is so bizarre. Shut down the system now. When students won't be swayed by standard Zionist cliches. Shut down the system now. There comes a Hasbara brigade to set their young careers ablaze. Shut down the system now. We're gonna shut down the system now. We're gonna shut down the system. Shut it down for Palestine. Raise up your fist and show you can resist them. Shut down the system now. As my disenchantment grew with my university. Shut down the system now. I realized it was true. I am much more than my degree. Shut down the system now. For I've learned to stand up for the oppressed and my own rights. Shut down the system now. Standing in the way of war in the campus square each night. Shut down the system now. We're gonna shut down the system now. We're gonna shut down the system. Shut it down for Palestine. Raise up your fist and show you can resist them. Shut down the system. Let's do it again. Shut down the system. Now we're gonna shut down the system. Shut it down for Palestine. Raise up your fist and show you can resist them. Shut down the system. Shut down the system. Shut down the system now.
Yeah, cut it down.
Last song will be Somebody's Hurting My Brother.
Oh yeah, everybody knows.
Who's tired of NATO? Of NATO? Who's tired of NATO? It's going far too long. Can you say it? It's going far too... Again.
It's gone far too long.
Somebody's hurting my brother, and it's going on
far too long.
Yes, it's going on
far too long.
Yes, it's going on far too long. Somebody's hurting my brother, and it's going on far too long. And we won't be silent anymore. My sister, somebody's hurting my sister, and it's gone on far too long. Yes, it's gone on far too long. Yes, it's gone on far too long. Somebody's hurting my sister, and it's gone on far too long. And we won't be silent anymore. Shooting the children. Somebody's shooting the children, and it's gone on far too long. Yes, it's gone on far too long.
Let me tell you,
it's gone on far too long. Somebody's shooting the children, and it's gone on far too long. And we won't be silent anymore. Somebody's poisoning the water, and it's gone on
far too long.
Yes, it's gone on
far too long.
Gone on
far too long.
Somebody's poisoning the water, and it's gone on far too long.
And we won't
be silent anymore. Bombing the people. Somebody's bombing the people, and it's gone on far too long.
Let me tell you, it's
gone on far too long. Yes, it's gone on far too long. Somebody's bombing the people, and it's gone on far too long. And we won't be silent anymore. And we won't be silent anymore.
And we won't be silent anymore.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Whoops.
Yeah, I sure will. Thank you. Well, let's have another big hand. I mean, these folks from the One DC Black Worker Center Chorus and Ben Gossip, thank you for your energy, for your resilience, for your standing here in the middle of the day, singing your hearts out, giving us the musical and spiritual courage to continue. And speaking of courage to continue, we have a vigil tonight at 4 o'clock for Julian Assange finally being free. We've had vigils here in D.C. while he was in prison, so now it's time to celebrate his freedom. Ann Wilcox is right here. You can get the details. It's up by the Bethesda Metro, only a block or two away. So come right over to Ann Wilcox. Thank you. Okay, and next we have Nathan Gibbs. He's from Brooklyn, New York. He's part of the Democratic Socialists of America. He's the anti-war committee. Please, Nathan. Yay!
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Y'all are still out here, huh? It's been a long, hot day. Give yourselves a round of applause. Give yourselves a loud round of applause. We appreciate your presence here. Really, really appreciate it. We learned a lot this weekend. It was a very educational weekend. Rather than speak to educate you all, I want to talk a little bit about our path forward as organizers. And I want to bring back some knowledge from Cuba, where I visited for May Day earlier this year. It was a really amazing experience. To resist NATO from the United States, from the Imperial Core, is quite a task. And it's difficult, as you can see. And it requires a certain mindset that I think we can all work on cultivating. So I want to talk about humility from the Imperial Core. I want to talk about sacrifice, and I want to talk about courage, which I think are three characteristics that we all need. Allow me to quote James Baldwin, who said, "This is what is irreducible and awful. You the English, you the French, you the West, you the Christians. You can't help but feel that there is something that you can do for me, that you can save me. And you don't yet know that I have endured your salvation so long that I cannot afford it anymore. Not another moment of your salvation. And that I can save you. I know something about you. You don't know anything about me, and that's where it really is." I think we should take those words to heart. I think we have a lot to learn from the resistance struggles around the world, from, as we say in our chants, Palestine to the Philippines, from our comrades in Kenya who are resisting their own government right now. Yep, Ruto, get him out of there. And to Cuba, who really, really suffers almost as much as anybody else around the world the consequences of imperialism. Their entire society is immiserated by our government. And I can't say they don't care, but they do not capitulate. They don't capitulate. They're being held hostage by the United States, and they will never capitulate. I saw more solidarity, open and forceful solidarity with the Palestinian struggle down there than I've seen in months of organizing in the United States. And it was a really beautiful sight because they could capitulate and they could improve their own conditions, but they're courageous and they're willing to sacrifice. And I implore us all to learn from them and to learn from the most acute points of resistance of the Global South in our own organizing. Be willing to sacrifice, be courageous, and be humble. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Nathan. And next we have from the UK, we have John McGrath, who is from the Campaign for Nuclear Disarmament, one of the very first organizations in the world to challenge nuclear disarmament. Come on in, or challenge nuclear weapons and let us disarm them. Come on up, John.
Hello, everybody. I'm going to be really brief because it's super, super hot, and everyone's been out for a long time. I just want to say that I'm a U.S. citizen, but I've been living in the U.K. for 10 years, and this is my first time back in 9. And the first thing that struck me was the homelessness problem here in the U.S. And in the U.K. we have, the NHS, the National Health Service, and this country has nothing. So one of the campaign points for the C&D is nurses, not nukes. And it's telling that we have, in this country, we have the biggest military budget in the world by far. About half of the weapons in the world come from this country. And then lastly, C&D has been part of the big Palestinian demonstrations that you might have caught that have happened in London. We had one yesterday which had hundreds of thousands of people on the streets. Our biggest one, we had 1 million people out on the streets. So we're getting big crowds for Palestine. And we got to turn that into big crowds for the peace in Ukraine movement, because it's possible. And we have to tell people that you can be for a ceasefire in Gaza and also a ceasefire in Ukraine. And I will lastly note that we had an election in the UK recently, and C&D's Vice President Jeremy Corbyn won his election as an independent. And Jeremy Corbyn ran explicitly on a ceasefire in Gaza, but he also included a ceasefire in Ukraine. So it's time that we start demanding that of politicians in the United States as well. And with that, I'll just leave it. Thank you for coming out today.
Well, John, welcome back after 9 years being away. My goodness. Well, right now we have representatives from the Women's League for International Freedom. It is the oldest women's peace organization in the world. Please come on up, Diane Blaze and Cheryl Spencer. Please, go right ahead.
Hi, I'm Diane Blay, and I'm in WILF, Women's International League for Peace and Freedom, founded in 1915 by Jane Addams, who won the Nobel Peace Prize. And so WILF believes in peace. We want peace. We don't. We want to negotiate. We don't want any war. So for that, we're here. We feel NATO is a big bully. It has this group that people think is good and has a nice brotherhood and a unity, but they have united to coerce countries to donate money and to do bad things and have war. So we are not for them. And I am going to now introduce Cheryl Spencer. She is co-chair of Disarm With Me, and Ellen Thomas is also co-chair, and she spent 18 years in front of the White House against nuclear weapons. And the three of us are co-chairs of Disarm, which is an issue committee in WILF. Okay, Cheryl?
Our league, which is almost 110 years old, have worked for many years to bring many wars to a diplomatic conclusion. And I note that many of the wars of the last 30 years have been provoked by the United States government, and the US has invaded other countries and fought them and bombed them, and they were often aided by NATO troops and their bombs. And who paid for these unnecessary attacks on other countries? You all. Your tax dollars, trillions of dollars coming from our taxes, have paid for these wars. There is no military solution to the wars in Ukraine and in Gaza, only diplomatic ones that acknowledge the security interests of all stakeholders. WILF has consultative status with the United Nations, which means we have official standing there and they can take advice from us. And so we advocate for the peaceful solutions to the many problems that affect women and girls. A recent UN policy paper reveals how the Ukraine-Russia war, both inside Ukraine and globally, have impacted food, energy, and finance, and that is affecting women and girls disproportionately. There are school-age girls who are at risk of being obliged to drop out of school and to get married for dowry or bride price income for desperate families. The UN shows that war-induced food price hikes and shortages have widened the global gender gap in food insecurity, as women have reduced their own food intake so they can feed their families. We see this happening in Gaza, to an awful situation there. On the International Day for the Elimination of Sexual Violence in Conflict, the UN Department for Women unequivocally condemned all acts of sexual and gender-based violence wherever, whenever, and against whomever they were perpetrated. Sexual violence in conflict is a devastating form of attack and repression and continues to be used as a tactic of war which impacts women and girls distinctively. There are many other examples of how women and girls suffer because of the awful wars in Ukraine and Gaza. So we must prioritize women's and girls' voices, agency, participation, and leadership in conflict response, recovery, and peace building. Women must be sitting at the negotiating table as we use diplomacy to end wars. The world is teetering on the brink of a nuclear war, and we may fall into one because President Biden has authorized limited strikes inside Russia using US weapons and satellite technology. Russia could respond to such attacks by firing some of its nuclear weapons at Ukraine and us, and that could initiate an exchange of nuclear weapons. The only way to avoid a devastating nuclear war is to abolish all nuclear weapons, and Wilf has a flyer that tells you what you can do to help our government move towards disarming itself and the other 8 nations that possess these weapons of mass destruction. The US is modernizing its missiles and the nuclear bombs that they can deliver. We must persuade new engineering graduates not to go to work for the weapons companies, so we can starve those companies of the engineering brain power they need to carry out these modernization programs. We have the 2 flyers. I have a QR code here. If you come to me afterwards and look at the QR code with your phone, they'll take you to the flyers that will help you stop nuclear weapons. Wilf says no nuclear weapons, no NATO. Thank you.
Yay, great words from the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom. No more nukes, no more nukes, no more NATO. And we have a person that's coming up next, Rainer Braun, who's been one of the great activists of all of Europe for years. He's been part of the No to NATO network, and he has a message from another friend of ours who's been one of the co-coordinators of No to NATO.
So, dear friends, no speech any longer. Only 2 points. First point, we are never really successful in our activities, but we have some successes in the last days. The first success is, and this is the biggest one, Julian Assange is free. This is our success. The second success is Jeremy Corbyn was re-elected against the whole fight of the stupid Labour Party. Our second success. And the third success is today. The French left was winning the elections. No one was believing that. It happened. So, when we are united, when we are active, we can win, we can continue our fight for war, against war and for peace. Let's take it. Resist to NATO. Let's fight together for peace, united, and all of us. We will win at the end. It is needed, and we will take it. Let's fight together. Resist to NATO. We will win. Thank you.
And we have one more person from Europe, although he's an American, but he's been living in Belgium. We have Bernard Blumenthal, who's a peace activist, environmental activist. Please, Bernard.
Hello, everyone. It's very nice that you're spending your day out in the sun listening to us. And I'm going to make this as short as I possibly can. Hello, my name is Bud Blumenthal of the NATO Surveillance Committee of Brussels, Belgium. The NATO Surveillance Committee warmly welcomes all the EU activists who have come from all corners of this world for the Counter Summit and the associations inside of the United States who are mobilizing to make heard the voice of intelligence and reason of those who want to put an end to war. In Belgium, my adopted country, the peace movement is particularly troubled because NATO headquarters is in Brussels. There are headquarters in Mons, in the south of our little country, and there are American nuclear weapons deployed in the north. And as we all saw during the Gulf War, the port of Antwerp is an essential entry point for American troops and military equipment. Brussels is also the headquarters of the European Union, which, as we all know, is very close to NATO in its geopolitical alignment. In other words, in the event of war, my adopted country would be one of the first legitimate targets. It is said over and over that NATO protects us, but in fact, as I and my children here in Brussels know NATO literally puts us at risk, the highest ultimate risk, that of being a nuclear target. In Belgium, as in the rest of Europe, perhaps here in America too, the peace movement has been plunged into great confusion since Russia's entry into open warfare in Ukraine on the 24th of February 2022, but that is nothing new. My organization, the NATO Surveillance Committee, was born in 1999 in the aftermath of NATO's attack on the former Yugoslavia, the so-called Kosovo War. Actually, Kosovo lies at the root of the Ukrainian conflict. The anti-war movement was divided between those who fell for NATO's propaganda about Serbian atrocities and the alleged genocide in progress, and those who saw NATO and the Serbs as each other's enemies. They said neither NATO nor Milosevic. There were those also who denounced the war propaganda. They placed NATO's aggression within the global geopolitical framework of imperialism's assault on the rest of the world, which is in service of the perpetuation of Western hegemony. The situation was very similar in 2011 when NATO destroyed Libya under false pretenses. At that time, many of our comrades were panicked by the war propaganda. Many others shouted, "No to NATO, no Gaddafi." Now there is no NATO. There is no Milosevic. There is no Gaddafi, but NATO is still here. Today, the anti-war movement is deeply divided between those who believe Russia must be condemned above all else. Some are applauding NATO's military aid to Zelensky's army. Others are rejecting Western imperialism and alleged Russian imperialism. There are those, and this is the position of my organization, for whom it is essential to identify the root cause of this war. We must place it in the general framework of NATO wars and to realize what exactly is at stake in this Ukrainian conflict. This is a war between NATO and Russia using Ukraine as a battleground. The war in Ukraine did not start on the 24th of February 2022. It began before the coup d'etat of 2014, the 8 years of repression and bombardment of the Donbass. This was carried out by, among others, certain units of the Ukrainian army, the neo-Nazi inheritors of Stefan Bandera, the ultra-nationalist Nazi collaborator. With the end of the Cold War and the dissolution of the Warsaw Pact, NATO, instead of disappearing, along with the official raison d'etre, its reason for existence, has continued to strengthen and expand right up to Russia's doorstep. The current war is the disastrous outcome of decades of confrontation, domination, and the denial of the idea of mutual security. I'll say that again. The idea of mutual security, an idea that is implicit for NATO partners, but not recognized as crucial for Russia. And this war is only part of a much larger one. Behind the West's hoped-for defeat of Russia lies the expected war with China. As Boris Johnson bluntly admitted only a few weeks ago, if Ukraine falls, it will be a catastrophe for the West. It will be the end of Western hegemony. These are the real stakes. And this war is the broader version of the one being waged by Israel, NATO's honored partner in the Middle East. And beyond that, the Ukraine war is a prelude to an even bigger, larger war against China. Together, they are part of this same headlong rush to preserve Western hegemony at all costs. We don't need this. We don't need all our resources to be sucked into the politics of war. We don't need all our resources diverted from humanity's actual fundamental life-threatening emergencies. More than anything, we must fight against runaway climate change and, of course, fight to eradicate nuclear weapons. We urgently need a new, powerful global peace movement. NATO is actively preparing the coming world war with full complicity of the U.S. and the European leaders who are following and implementing NATO's gruesome, suicidal roadmap. Thank you all for your attention. No to NATO, and yes to peace.
Okay, well, we are toward the end of our wonderful, wonderful opportunity to be together. We saved the best for last. For the last speaker, we have the International Peace Bureau's Executive Director, all the way from Berlin, Germany. We have Sean Connor. Please come up.
Thank you. It's been a long day, so I'll keep this nice and short. But I'd like to start with what might be a familiar quote to many of you. When your only tool is a hammer, you see everything as a nail. Well, in this case, NATO is the hammer, and every war that they are conducting, every militarist act, are the nails. Now, there are a multitude of problems, and we've talked about it today, we've talked about it yesterday, from climate change to economic discrepancies, economic inequalities within our societies. And the solution of NATO countries, in every case, is to use militarized solutions to what are clearly not military problems. So, the answer is that we need to, above all else, vocalize what those alternatives are. When we say no to NATO, we say yes to peace, because there are plenty of tools in our kit besides the hammer that we can use to resolve the multiple crises, overlapping crises that we as a society are facing. And as long as NATO continues to exist, the only tool that the US and the NATO allies in Europe will use are military tools. And this will cost lives, this will cost the earth as a whole. Climate change, environmental degradation, the world is falling apart, and it is because we only have learned how to use the hammer. Thank you very much. Thank you everyone for being here today. Let's go forward and use every other tool that we can against NATO and for peace.
Okay. Well, Sean was good to his word. Short, sweet, and so important. So as we say no to NATO, yes to peace, we want to thank all of you all for hanging in there. It's been a hot, hot day. We've had wonderful, wonderful speakers. We want to remind you that this is not it. It's not all over. The heads of NATO are coming in on Tuesday, on the 9th, or actually on the 8th. Tomorrow, the 8th, they'll be coming in. We hope we have some activities there. We definitely are going to be out in front of the Washington Convention Center on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Remember, Tuesday night at 6 o'clock at Busboys and Poets for our book readings from 7 for her book on NATO, and Medea and David for their book on NATO. So we've got lots of things to be doing. Keep track of what's going on all over the city. Again, we want to thank the Movement Infrastructure Project for hanging in there with us, for setting up everything, for moving at once on behalf of National Park Service gave us this wonderful time to be in the sunshine. So for us, we want to thank again the DC Black Chorus, the Workers' Chorus,